You're listening to Trek FM.
Hello, and welcome to From There to Here, Trek FM's celebration of 50 years of Star Trek, in which we look at all 729 episodes of Trek from beginning to end. I'm Andy, and I'm joined today by Zach.
What's up, Andy?
Not much. We get to talk about 2 episodes of Star Trek today. One, the DS9 episode Profit and Loss, and the TNG episode Genesis.
Genesis? Yes, Genesis! How can you be deaf with ears like that?
So, let's dive right in. Profit and Loss. So, do you want to give us a synopsis of Profit and Loss?
Is this the one where Quark cross-dresses? No. That's Profit and Lace. There's a very distinct difference between these episodes. No, Profit and Loss has a group of Cardassian refugees coming to the station. The leader had a previous romantic relationship with Quark.
Why? We don't know why.
Yeah. Garrick gets involved, Cardassian government gets involved, and it becomes a very politically charged situation that brings 2 characters who hadn't had any interaction before together, Garrick and Quark. So that makes for some great moments, I thought.
Yeah, basically, the pros of this episode are always, number 1, Garrick is there. And Garrick is always a pro, no matter what he's doing, it's always a pro.
Yeah, so you already alluded to it, the relationship between Quark and the lead Cardassian woman. They were together for 1 month 7 years ago, and she's like the love of Quark's life, and she feels the same way. And see, the whole episode, it was good because he kept like pursuing her, and she was shutting him down. All these cliches. He was like, "Tell me you don't love me. Look me in the eye and tell me you don't love me." And she says, "I don't love you." And he's like, "Oh." and then she's holding a phaser at him. She's like, "Go ahead, shoot me. You can't shoot me." And she shoots him. And I was like, "Oh, this is great, like cliche defying moments, you know." But then it all kind of falls apart. Like, she's a very strong character up until she's not a strong character at all, right? Because she's like, "Oh, Quark, I do love you. I'm sorry," and that would just completely undercut everything they were trying to do with her, I felt.
Quark basically does everything that I hate about him in this episode, which is not respect boundaries and be super sexist and controlling and just gross. He's gross. The only thing I do like about Quark in this episode is when he's with Garrick and they're having like a conversation that has multiple levels, because when they are just like, "Hey, look, Quark, he's gross," I am not amused by that. But when they show him having, because Quark is smart. Okay, he's an intelligent person, and yet they constantly have him running around playing the fool, basically, and just being super gross. And they think that I think that's funny, but I don't. Throughout this whole episode, he just is manipulative, and I don't like that it's rewarded in the end by this Cardassian woman being like, "I do love how you try and control all of my actions. It's super romantic."
Yeah, they had set her up as such like a strong woman with agency, and then it all evaporates with that twist to give, I guess, Quark a somewhat happy ending. I mean, she leaves at the end, and we never see her again. So there's really not much follow up there. You mentioned the conversation between Quark and Garrick in his shop. I love that because Garrick he's continuing to play this facade that he's a tailor and that's all he does, and he uses all these allusions about fashion, talking about politics, and it was a very, very great scene, I thought.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, you can listen to Garrick talk about anything, right?
Yes, pretty much.
This episode, I give it a win for the Garrick stuff, but it's a pretty by-the-numbers plot other than that, and really not much else to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, it does do what DS9 is good at, which is give us a complex political situation and an ethical gray area, which I love, and I love seeing more of. I just wish that I hadn't been told I should be rooting for Quark, because I don't.
Well, I did think one more thing. Odo letting them out at the end, do you think that was in character for him? To release the prisoners like that?
I mean, that's iffy. He has a tendency to want to put everyone in jail.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you think Odo's going to let people leave? I don't think so.
But, I mean, it does give us more to hold on to in his character as being more flexible.
Well, he is a shapeshifter. Heyo.
Heyo. But he's not really very flexible, so I agree that it might be at least on the edge of being in character or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it adds an extra wrinkle to his character. It's not so black and white, at least in this situation.
Yeah.
Which was nice. And it deepens the quote-unquote relationship that him and Quark have, whatever weirdly defined friendship that is.
Frenemies. One of the things I love about Odo is that he'll spend a lot of time talking about how much he hates Quark, almost as much time as he spends hanging out with Quark.
That's true. Yeah, even in this one, he's like, hey, word on the street is you have a cloaking device. They're hanging out at the beginning of the episode.
I just love their, ongoing chess game. It's super interesting to watch. But yeah, the pros of this episode always go back to Garak.
For sure.
Alrighty, next up is Genesis! Genesis. So, Genesis, basically, what happens in Genesis? Everybody turns into weird things.
Yep, that's the perfect one phrase description of this episode, right?
If I had to do a 2-word description, it would be Troy Frog.
What about Crab Wharf? That would be my 2-word description.
Caveman Riker.
Spider Barkley.
Oh my god, Spider Barkley. I love it.
That freaks me out.
Yeah.
I saw this episode as a kid. That freaked me out so much. I was like, he's twitching against the window.
Okay, so in this episode, sciencey shenanigans occur, and then everyone on the ship starts to devolve into, various horrifying monster things. And Picard and Data come back and they're like, say what? And then they solve the mystery and everything's cool. But in the meantime, we have this absolute gem of an episode. So I know it's terrible. I know it is, but I love it so much.
Oh, this is a guilty pleasure for sure. It's so fun to see the Enterprise, it's like a haunted house Enterprise, right?
That's the best thing about this episode for me, is that they shoot it with a straight face. So they're shooting it like it's a horror film, which is super hilarious when you're actually, the concept is so dopey. And then you have, all of these, the music is, so creepy, and then they have all the lighting and then they're like, scary, 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 but you're actually laughing hysterically. I love it. I love the two extremes they're coming together to be when Troy is revealed, the music is be horrified, and I'm like, Troy Frog, and it's just so amazing. The only time they actually get a legitimate, out of me is Barkley Spider, which is legit terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's disgusting. I don't know, I thought the Crab Wharf running around was pretty effectively scary. Beating on the door, and, he's about to get his card in the Jeffries tube. I don't know, I thought that was, once again, I saw it as a kid, so that stuck with me there. But I was talking to Dan about this in our last block together a few days ago. This just goes to show no one should ever leave the Enterprise on a shuttle and come back, because nothing good comes from it. You leave the ship, your shuttle crashes on a planet, you get abducted by Romulans, you come back, the Enterprise is about to be destroyed. It's just nothing good to be had there.
I have to say, though, that if I were Brent Spiner and Patrick Stewart, I would have sent this episode to every Emmy judge that lives. And I would be like, look how well I acted, as if this is not ridiculous. Spiner is spouting the most ludicrous exposition you could ever hope to hear, and he's doing it as if it makes sense, and it's amazing. And then they have Patrick Stewart and Brent Spiner looking at Riker Caveman, and they're like, oh no. I love it so much. This episode is so good.
You're a cat person. How did you feel about Spot turning into an iguana?
I love that they kept her, ribbon, her collar on. So,
yes, my collar makes it so funny.
It goes to Iguana Spot, and she's, got this dainty collar on that somehow, shrank to her size. I love it. So good. I love any episode of Spot, and I will say that genuinely good is seeing Barkley be like, I love cats, and Barkley is so cute in this episode.
Yeah, this is the last time we see him on Next Generation, actually, Barkley, so.
He's just, I love that Riker and Worf, the two toughest dudes on the Enterprise, cannot handle Spot, but Barkley is like, oh, pretty kitty, and Spot's like, yeah, you're alright. I'll take you.
Now, is this the episode where Spot became female? Because I'm pretty sure Spot was referred to as a he up until this point.
Yeah, somehow kittens?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, this is the thing, too, that's hilarious, is they're like, by the way, Ogawa is pregnant, and by the way, Spot is pregnant. None of these things are going to be important later. Like, it's just so clumsy. But still, I mean, if you have an episode where there's a scene where Worf suddenly sprays venom in Crusher's face.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's the best thing. It's so good.
Poor Gaze McFadden. You know, Gaze McFadden directed this episode.
She did a good job.
Yeah. So, you know, good for her. Making it work. Because, yeah, I feel like with I don't know, you're right. Just the entire attitude here, everything came together. I can't explain why I like this episode. I just do. You know, it's entertainment. It's entertainment. And what is Star Trek if not entertainment? And this episode entertains me.
If you watch an episode and you're having fun, that's a successful episode. So I love this one. I have unabashed love for this one.
And I guess Worf and Troy are dating now? Like, but I thought that stuff was in her head in the last episode, right? Like,
I don't know.
It's so confusing. I don't know. We talked about that yesterday. But yeah, they seem to have a established relationship of some kind, I think.
I mean, he bites her face, so that's obviously love.
Ah, there you go. There you have it.
I do love, though, that when the shenanigans start to go on, you just have Worf being just like, I'm eating.
and they have the thermostat war on the bridge.
It's too cold. No, it's too hot. Oh my god, everything about this episode is amazing. I could watch this episode 10 times in a row and I would love it just the same.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite moments is when Spiner turns to Patrick Stewart and goes, I think you're devolving into a pygmy marmoset.
That's what I learned what a pygmy marmoset was.
All the props to Brent Spiner for delivering that line with a straight face. Like, what?
This must have been one of those weeks where Patrick Stewart turned to Jonathan Frakes. He's like, 20 years in the Royal Shakespeare Company, Jonathan. Frakes' favorite story.
But seriously, so amazing. And, you know, Patrick Stewart, like, all kidding aside, Patrick Stewart plays his devolution?
Mm-hmm. That's probably the right phrase, yeah.
Really, really well. Like, that thing where he suddenly sort of is scared, but then he's succumbing to panic more and more and more. It's really actually very well done. It's just so overshadowed by all the silliness happening, but the acting is actually quite good. It's just that the concept is basically not savable, because when you have Troy and she's like, has gills and stuff.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying about the Worf stuff actually scared me.
Yeah.
You know, once again, as I was a kid, okay? But because Patrick Stewart is playing up the fear, you feel the fear through him. He's running around, spraying the hyperspray in the air, crawling through the Jeffries tube. You're like, oh, no,
run!
You get worked up with him, yeah.
Run, Picard, run! Yeah, no, totally. And when I was first time trekking it, and even when I was rewatching it the other day, and this is, most of the time I do my rewatching and I don't tweet about it very much, but this is one where I was like just dying, so I kept tweeting about it. So it's like second time trek. And people were tweeting me, they're like, this actually scared me as a kid. I can absolutely see why. Barclay Spider would have given me nightmares as a kid. No joke. And I mean, yeah, Patrick Stewart's an excellent actor. He makes you feel your, fear. Yeah, so there is some, like, actual legit good stuff in here, and then also we have the joyousness of, Troy Frog and Caveman Riker.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend this to a new Trekkie, but, if someone has already won over to the Star Trek fan base and they're a Star Trek fan, you gotta show them this episode. They'll love it.
Yeah, to be fair, if somebody had showed me this episode, I would have been, like, all aboard. I was like, okay, I'm going to watch every episode of Star Trek now. But, that's me. I have this weakness for episodes like this. I love them. I'm really glad, though, that I wasn't on this episode with someone who hates this episode, because I could never have geeked out as much about it as I got to do with you. So thanks, Zach, for sharing my love of this one.
Feeling is mutual.
Yay! Well, is there anything else to say about either Profit and Loss or Genesis?
I could talk about Genesis for another hour, but we should probably wrap it up.
True, and I have to agree. Probably don't want us giggling about Troy Frog for 20 minutes. So, Zach, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, on Twitter, you can find me at MoronZach. That's MooreonZach. And I'm also the host of my own podcast called Always Hold On to Smallville, where we talk about that young Superman TV show. And we're on Twitter at Always Smallville with one S.
When I hear that, I always kind of wish that there's a show called Mallville. Because I think that could be a good show. Just saying. Maybe that's what Degrassi basically is.
Degrassi, the next generation.
And you can find me on Twitter at First Time Trek, where I'm live tweeting through my first time through Star Trek. You can also catch me as one of the hosts of Women at Warp. All right, thanks so much for listening, everybody. We will be back tomorrow to talk about Blood Oath and Journey's End.